It's time for another podcast by George. Straight talk, straight from the heartland, that'll have you saying, "By George, I think he's got it." Now, here's George.
Hello, hi, how are you? And welcome to another podcast by George. Well, we're just another day into it, folks. The virus is sweeping across America. 70 cases so far confirmed here in my home state, and I'm hoping it's the iceberg and not the tip of the iceberg. We don't know yet, but the ramifications of this are being felt economically worldwide, and certainly here in the United States as everything shuts down. And everybody thinks about their own situation, and they should. I mean, you got to think about yourself and your family first and foremost. It's like that oxygen mask deal coming down from the airplane. You put it on first, and then you help and think about others. But it's time to start doing that. There are folks among us that are particularly hard hit by this, and it's going to get worse for them. And there's a fellow joining us on the podcast by George live line right now that knows all about that, and it's Joe Henry. He's the president of the League of United Latin American Citizens Council number 307 in Des Moines, Iowa. He's also the advisor to the national president for civic engagement and elections. And of course, LULAC is the nation's largest and oldest Hispanic civil rights organization, founded in 1929. So Joe, welcome to a podcast by George.
Thank you, George. Good to be here.
Tell us about the unique circumstances that you're encountering in your community that a lot of my folks that watch my podcast may not even be aware of.
Well, as you know, there's 60 million Americans are Latinos out of the 324 million Americans. So here in Iowa, as an example, 80,000 restaurant workers are going to face layoff if they haven't already been laid off. Many of those restaurant workers are Latinos. And of course, when we look at immigrants in Latinos here in Iowa and throughout the country, over 50% of agricultural workers, many construction workers, again, many service sector workers are from our community. And we're on the ground. We're doing the work. Meat processing is another one. Food, the production of food is a key element, but yet here we are with our community suffering layoffs in the food sector, specifically the service sector. So that's hitting us very hard, and food is something that we're going to need primarily in the coming days. Many of our people live in poverty, over 20%. Versus 11% who live in poverty overall here in Iowa. So the government services need to be provided to all Americans, to all Iowans, but especially within our community. Yep. So it's very important that we get those resources right away.
You and everyone, but of course your folks maybe first and foremost. And from the day one of this, I've said, we need testing kits, we need field hospitals in this country, and we need that UBI that they're talking about, because we need to get people some money so that they can get by and so that they can put it back into the economy and so that they can keep going. Now, here's the ultimate irony that strikes me based on what you've just described, and I saw you talking about this earlier in an op-ed piece. You've got all these folks involved in the food industry, from, the growing of the food to the serving of it in restaurants, as an example. Yet they're the ones that may have the most difficulty in getting food during this time of crisis. Talk about that.
Well, exactly. Here we are, we're doing the work, we're processing the food, we're picking it, growing it, so forth and so on. And now the sector with the service sector in the restaurants, we're being laid off. So what happens? This is happening this week. This happened on Monday. So we have people in our community without paychecks, without money to buy groceries, important things, not toilet paper, beans, rice, meat products. Those are the things we need. We are a young community. The average age of the Latino community here in Iowa is 24 versus 38. So we need to get those resources right away. We can't wait as other Americans might be able to wait. But when we look at this, we have 43 million Americans who live in poverty. We have another 100 million, as has been stated, who are just right there on the edge. And now they're falling into this section of poverty. So we need to get those resources right away. Now, we applaud the efforts local government right now, and also the schools. And so the food banks that are providing food. But that is not going to last. That has to be sped up. Those type of services are there to help people who have been in need. But now we're going to have half of America living in this catastrophe right now without resources. And again, with us in the Latino community, we are at the point of production. Many of our folks who are not only workers, but small business owners, after a couple weeks, those business owners are not going to be able to come back. If they can't come back and start up their businesses again, then those people who are working for them will be laid off on a continuous basis. So we have to move faster than the rate that we're doing right now. Whatever vouchers, whatever checks, $1,000 checks that the government states that it's going to provide, they need to be printing those right now. Those need to go out. Resources need to be happening. There needs to be alerts right now that there will not be foreclosures, there will not be evictions, there will be free access to health care. There will be a way to go into a grocery store to get food for our families. So this has to happen now.
I couldn't agree with you more. And quit fritzing and fighting about who gets what and who's entitled and who isn't. Let's get it out there. Let's get people what they deserve in this country. And, you know, I love real world analogies. I know you got to run, Joe, but I love this. I've got this visual that you had in the op-ed piece, which is, you know, you've got some people that are going with $400 to the grocery store. We've all been there recently. You've seen them. They've got 1, 2 shopping carts full of stuff, toilet paper mostly. But let's say they're spending $400 a pop at the grocery store. There's somebody coming into the store with not $400, maybe $40. And
Exactly.
the shelves are empty for those folks. My God, that's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. And the thing is, we need basic things. We need to be able to access the food that actually we're playing a part in growing. We need the beans, we need the rice, we need the tortillas, we need the flour, the potatoes, the fresh vegetables. Those are the things that are going to help our community. And if we don't have access to those things, and they do not cost that much, those stores, those government agencies need to make sure that we get their part, that every American family gets their part so that we can survive during this crisis.
Oh, man, that's well said. And the silver lining to this awful dark cloud that we have is, Joe, your constituency has been underappreciated in this country. I mean, I don't think there's any argument about that. They may appreciate your constituency more now, but this probably isn't the way you would like for that to happen.
No, and again, this is terrible. And if we do not provide resources to our community, when this country's ready to come back, when it's ready to go back on again, if we don't have those resources right now, we will not have those workers ready to start over again to make sure that the food is produced, that the construction happens, that all the different types of services are provided. So we need this help right now. So thank you for allowing me to be on here.
Well, thanks for coming on, particularly on such short notice, folks. That's Joe Henry. He's the president of the League of United Latin American Citizen Council number 307, LULAC, the nation's largest and oldest Hispanic civil rights organization, founded way back in 1929, and it couldn't be more vital, more important than it is today. That's it. That's all we've got. That's the entire show. Yeah, Joe, go get them, pal.
Okay.
That's going to do it. That's another podcast.
Okay.
By George.
Bye. Thank you.